Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's episode 3 of the Most Common Mistakes series. So today I'm going to be covering shoulder training. Now the shoulders are comprised of 3 distinct muscles. We have the anterior head here in the front, the medial deltoid on the side, and then we have the posterior delt back here. Now there are exercises that we can do to individually target these heads. So I'm going to be going through one exercise, a traditional exercise that people do to target each head, show you what the most common mistakes are and how to correct them. So the first exercise that we're going to be going into is the overhead dumbbell press. Okay, so the first exercise we're going to be looking at here is going to be an overhead dumbbell press. Now right off the bat, before we even grab any weight or start executing the motion, we have to look at the degree of external rotation that your shoulder is even capable of. So most people, they're going to angle the bench completely upright like this, but you should do a test with yourself. So before you even grab any weight, you should try to see if you're able to externally rotate to the point where your elbow and your wrist are in alignment. For most people, it's going to be more like this. So when they press, the dumbbells are going to be going out slightly in front. And that's not going to maximize the tension that you're going to be able to place on the shoulder. It's going to be an inefficient way to press. So if you sit down on the bench and you're not able to position your arms like this, where your wrist is stacked directly above your elbow, you're not able to externally rotate to this degree, what I'd recommend is that you just bring the bench back one notch. So I'm going to show right here. So we're going to bring the bench back at a bit of a decline, and you're going to notice it's going to be much easier to get into this position. You won't need as much external rotation to be able to perform the movement. So just that subtle adjustment right in the beginning is going to help you be much stronger when you do your shoulder pressing and allow you to place more tension on the front deltoid. Okay, so once you've determined your degree of flexibility and external rotation, you are now ready to press. Now one thing I'm going to point out is that we're trying to isolate this front section of the shoulder. So when we're pressing the weight, we should be thinking of an arcing motion, coming up and across slightly. That's going to help to shorten and contract the delt. And then we're coming out and stretching the deltoid. We want to work the muscle at the extremes in the lengthened position and the shortened position. Okay? So we're going to grab the dumbbells and we're going to start. So the dumbbells can be about level with the level of your ears. Remember to keep the wrists stacked directly on top of the elbows. And then when we press, we're thinking of coming up and across to the point where the dumbbells are almost touching each other. And then we're going to descend on a nice slow count. For most people, you can stop right about at your ear level, and your deltoids are going to be pretty lengthened. The front head of the delt is going to be lengthened. And then we're going to press. So you notice I'm coming out and apart, in and across. Okay? I believe it's unnecessary to go for a full lockout at the top, to extend the arms completely, because at that point, your triceps are really doing most of the work up here. So I'd recommend starting here, coming up and across, and you can stop right about here, stopping short of full lockout. That way the tension is consistent on the front head of the deltoid. Okay, so that's exercise number 1, the dumbbell press. Okay, so the next exercise we're going to be looking at is a dumbbell lateral raise, really with the intention of now targeting that medial deltoid. So for me, I believe this is a very important exercise from an aesthetic perspective to give your shoulders a nice capped look. Whether you're a man or a woman, I believe it's a very nice look from an aesthetic point of view. So for a lot of people, even if you're advanced, I like to do this exercise seated. Why? Well, the thing is, when you're standing up, it's very easy to create a lot of momentum and use your legs, use your traps to assist in the motion. If you really want to isolate this muscle here, I like to perform this seated. So you take away any unnecessary jerking or the potential for cheating. Okay? So, one thing I like to do as well is I like to have a slight lean forward, a very, very subtle lean forward, and that to me helps maximize the work being done on the medial delt. Okay, so I will demonstrate here. We're going to grab the dumbbells. We want to think of depressing the shoulders, pushing them down. Okay, we're doing that so that prevents the trapezius muscles from assisting in the movement. Okay, so step one, we're going to depress the shoulders, we're going to push them down, and then instead of thinking of lifting the weights up, I like the cue of getting your arms to try to reach as far out as possible, as if you were trying to get your arms to reach the opposite ends of the gym. Okay, so we're going to start the raise. We want to keep our arms almost completely extended, and we're going to begin the raise. Okay, once we get to about here, the level of our shoulder, your medial delt is under full tension. Okay, so we're going to stop right about here. We're going to slowly come down to about here and back up. One other thing I'd like to point out is that there should be a slight degree of internal rotation, meaning your pinky should be leveled a little higher than your thumb. That prevents your traps from taking over the movement. All these little tips, once you start to assimilate them, are going to maximize the tension and effectiveness of this exercise. Okay, so we want to pause at the top of the motion. We don't need to bring the dumbbells all the way down. We don't want to give the muscle a break. We want to keep the tension as consistent as possible. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate a few more here. We're going to lean forward, shoulder blades pressed down, shoulders depressed, and then think of your hands reaching wide, 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 wide. Pause at the top of the motion, slowly come down right before the weights touch the legs. We're going to come right back up. Okay, this is a phenomenal exercise to develop the medial delt. Slow tempo, controlled form, and it's going to work great for you too. So I'm just demonstrating here from a slightly different angle, just so you can get the feel of the exercise here. Shoulders depressed, lean forward slightly, and the arms are coming out, 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 out. Pause at the top of the motion, slowly come down. All right, so we are now going to be looking at the rear deltoid fly to work the posterior delt here. So if you want full development of your shoulders, you have to work all of the heads of the shoulder. Okay, so we're going to move into the rear delt fly here. I'm going to be performing this with cables, but if you have a rear delt machine or a pec fly machine where you can turn around and perform this movement, it's really the same thing. Now in terms of grip, it's important. Now if you just want to solely focus on the rear delt, the rear part of the shoulder here, I like a pronated grip where my palms are facing down as opposed to a neutral grip. Now there's nothing wrong with a neutral grip like this, but what happens is you're not only going to work your rear delt, you're going to have assistance from the trapezius muscles and the rhomboids of the back. So just something to keep in mind. If your goal is to purely stress and isolate this muscle back here, I like a pronated palms down grip. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get into it. So one thing we want to make sure that we don't do is retract our shoulder blades. In other words, we don't want to pull the weights and have our shoulders pull back like this. That's going to recruit a lot of your traps and your back muscles, your mid-back muscles. We don't want that. We want to stay protracted. We want to push the shoulders forward, and even as I pull the cables apart, I don't allow retraction to occur. So you don't have to pull the cables back too far. We can stop right about here and your rear delt is going to be fully shortened. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate here with the cables. So, much like the lateral raise, we're not thinking of pulling back, we're thinking of our arms going as far apart as possible. So I'm protracting, I'm keeping my shoulders pushed forward, and I'm reaching wide, pausing, feeling the rear delt contract, coming all the way in. So it's not a very big range of motion here. It's not needed to work this muscle. Pause, come all the way in. So no need to do this and retract. We want to stay protracted. Okay, so that's going to conclude today's episode 3 of the Most Common Mistakes series, shoulder edition. If you have any questions or concerns, or there's something I didn't cover that you find that's a struggle when you work your shoulders, please leave them in the comment section and I'd be happy to cover it in a future video. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.